What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Daily Dose. I am your host, Dylan Davis. The Daily Dose is brought to you by the Painted Lines. So if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and subscribe to the Painted Lines YouTube channel. Also, you can check out the Painted Lines on Twitter at the Painted Lines. Today, I am joined by my co-host / guest, Gint, one of my co-hosts from the Faithful Fanatics podcast. And also, we have another guest coming in to start the show. He is the voice of the people, Rob Lange. Rob, how are you?
Oh, man, it's Black Monday in Philadelphia. I mean, I think it's probably been that way for the last 4 weeks, right? We were just kind of waiting on the last shoe to drop, and did it ever drop yesterday?
Yeah.
Right.
So let's have a conversation for everyone watching live. If you're going to watch it after, please comment, and I'll try to get to as many as I can. If you want to call in, you can use the link on the YouTube or right here on the Facebook page, and you don't have to show your face. You can just call in and come on for a minute or two and talk with us. Give us your stance on Jalen Hurts, Carson Wentz, the Eagles, the Sixers, whatever you want to talk about today. So a dreadful day yesterday in Philadelphia sports. The Eagles season ends at the hands of the Dallas Cowboys, 37-17. And the Sixers get dominated by now the 3-0 Cleveland Cavaliers, 118-94. But I don't want to talk about the Sixers yet. We'll get to them. We'll leave them on the back burner. I want to talk to all of you people out there, all of you people that sat here and talked to me and talked to Rob and talked again and so many other people, all the people on Twitter, everything, that after one bad season, you wanted to exile number 11 and Carson Wentz from the city of Philadelphia. I was told, insert a new quarterback and all these issues go away. It's only the quarterback is to blame here. So Carson gets benched. There's no arguing that Carson Wentz was a disaster this season. But when everyone tried to pin all the issues on him and said, if you make a QB switch, all those issues disappear. Well, guess what, guys? They made the switch, and they are now 1-2 since making that switch with Jalen Hurts as the starter, and the sole win came against Taysom Hill. And I tried to my point is, I'm not trying to, make this a jab at Jalen Hurts in any way, shape, or form, and I know that's what a lot of people are going to try to say. My point is, are you ready to listen now? Are you ready to understand that this team stinks? So far on from the quarterback position, from top to bottom, they stink. The offensive line, the wide receiver play, the play calling, the defensive coordinator, the secondary, the linebackers, every part of this roster sucks. And it showed yesterday. It showed against the Cardinals. So no. Jalen Hurts, you were ready to anoint him the new franchise guy. You're ready to hand the keys to the city over to him after 2 weeks. And I want to know your stance now. And again, I am not trying – this show will not be a jab at Jalen Hurts. The kid could only do so much. That was my point. My point is, it doesn't matter who's under center for this team. The results were never going to be pretty. Doesn't matter if Jalen Hurts' numbers look better than Carson Wentz. Doesn't matter if the offense looked better for a little bit. Guess what, guys? In 3 weeks of him being a starter in the second half of football, so 6 quarters, this Eagles offense has put up 13 combined points in the second half. They were up 14-3 against the Dallas Cowboys yesterday. They lost 37-17. They were outscored 34-3. After the first 2 possessions of the football game. So I don't want to hear that, look at this offense with Jalen Hurts instead of Carson Wentz. I don't want to hear that Doug isn't the issue. I don't want to hear that these wide receivers all of a sudden get separation, because guess what? Deshaun Jackson led this team in receiving yards yesterday, and he had 1 catch for the 81-yard touchdown, and he led the team in receiving yards. Okay? Rob, I know you got a lot to say, buddy.
Well, yeah, that's why I reached out to you. I wanted to just talk about this a little bit. I kind of put a tweet out yesterday, and I said, finally, maybe the Philadelphia fan base can come back together. Because if the anti-Wentz and the pro-Wentz people can't see what is at the root of all the issues, I don't know what to tell you at this point. This is not a knock on Jalen Hurts. The fact is the jury's still out on Jalen Hurts. And the jury should still be out. He's played 3 games. Okay, he's played 3 games. He's had a lot of really nice plays. He's made some bad plays. Okay, and that's fine. That's what a rookie quarterback should do, especially one with no preseason. Like, maybe the kid still has a good career. I don't know. But to anoint him already was ridiculous. Here's my issue. Okay. Yesterday was a microcosm of the entire season, if you ask me. You had awful defense. You had an awful game plan where you start the drive. The first drive of the game, you run the ball 9 times. You have 9 designed run plays. I think there was 12, maybe 13 more the entire rest of the game. Design run plays. Now, I know they ran the ball more, but a lot of that was Jalen Hurts taking off because of the pass play breaking down, right? Okay. That against the worst run defense in the league, mind you. And it's not like you were down big the whole game. So we put that out there. Secondly, 3 straight weeks, a team has gone in at halftime after playing against Doug Peterson with Jalen Hurts as his quarterback and has totally shut them down. And now one of the worst defenses in the league holds you to a goose egg in the second half of a football game. Thirdly, 4 or 5 times, I'd say, they had an opportunity to really win that game yesterday. And stupid, undisciplined penalties hurt them. Now, you could say, well, the players on the field have to be better, and they do. You go in with this poorly constructed roster so that when a couple guys get hurt, you have nobody to back them up in the secondary, on the defensive line, whatever. But there's something to being an undisciplined team. And that means there is a breakdown in the coaching on offense, on defense. Now, on defense, you have a coordinator, right? So it's Jim Schwartz. Okay, and we've preached about this all year. People love him because statistically, he always seems to be there are more games like this than the other. So that's the first problem I have with him. Offensively, Doug, you put this on yourself when you refuse to hire an offensive coordinator. And when the discipline is an issue, that is a direct correlation to a head coach. That is a direct correlation to a head coach. I for most of the time here said, just get an offensive coordinator in here. You need to clean the house. And I understand he won a Super Bowl 3 years ago, but since then, division round, first round, no playoffs, right? Everyone wants to talk about regression amongst certain players on this team where your coach has regressed a lot. And if it wasn't for Herculean effort 2 years ago with Nick Foles and a double doink, a missed field goal, they don't make the divisional round. And if it wasn't for a Herculean effort by Carson Wentz over the last 4 games last year, you don't make the playoffs. So I am done hearing about how Doug, want to – listen, guys in this league get fired all the time after winning Super Bowls, okay? I'd like to look at some of the guys that won a Super Bowl and were out in the next 3 years. I guarantee there's quite a few. I like off the top of my head, I feel like Brian Billick didn't last much longer after he won. Yeah. Now, it might have been longer than 3 years, but I can't remember. Gruden wasn't around much longer after he won down in Tampa. This happens, right? We talked about the Sixers needed a new voice in the room, the Philadelphia Eagles brand is destroyed right now. And without serious changes, nothing gets solved. Doesn't matter what the quarterback situation is.
Not at all. Again.
Yeah, I'm just going to touch up on a lot of things you guys said, basically. Me and Dylan talked a lot about how Carson masked a lot of the issues on this team last year in the last 4 weeks of the season. And I think you really saw that when Jalen Hurts came in and his first 10 quarters, he was kind of just masking things with his legs. Plays were stretched out longer. So that was just one thing that, to the eye of the fans, it was like, oh, well, we have Russell Wilson 2.0 now. There's nothing really to worry about. He's going to extend every single play. And then we talk about how going into the locker room and coming out of it, we just get shut down all the time. And I bring up Brett Brown in that a lot because the Sixers were always very, very bad second half team, especially in the third quarter. And it just looks like Doug is the same way. But then when you see the Sixers this season, their third quarter is obviously disregarding last night, have been very good, which is just a sign of coaching. And one of the things I had in my notes also that Rob brought up was just 6 false starts, and that's just unprepared, and that's all at your head coach. This team was so unprepared, and I'm so glad this is coming to an end.
And listen, you can't be a head coach in the NFL if you can't adjust on the fly. Teams are adjusting to what Doug's doing. Doug doesn't adjust. Doug continues to do things that just don't work.
So does Jim.
Yeah, and same thing with Jim. I mean, I just don't understand what people don't get about putting a heavy blame on Doug Peter. To be honest with you, I don't think any one of us is saying Doug's number one. Howie Roseman is number one. The roster construction is number one. We get that. But Doug has regressed every year since Frank Reich left. He's regressed.
Did you see in the interview today, in his presser today, he tried to throw his resume out there?
I didn't even
You didn't see that?
I'll be honest. I learned a long time ago in the years of Andy Reid, I can't watch press conferences day after because I don't know if it's the coaches or if it's the questions being asked. They serve zero purpose. Like everyone jumped on the fact he said on WIP this morning, "Oh, I fully expect to be back." What did you expect him to say?
Yeah.
Did you expect him to say, "No, I don't know. You know, fire me." No coach friggin' said. Of course he's going to say that. He also said his offensive coordinator was coming back last year, and he didn't. So Doug don't know shit. I hate to tell you, he doesn't.
Well, that's the thing, and I feel like, the shitty part about this show, I guess, today is going to be the fact that this isn't a pro Carson thing for me today. This isn't an even an anti Doug or Jalen Hurts thing. This is a direct shot at every dumb ass hat of a fan that these Twitter GMs, these Twitter coaches, these guys that you would think played in the NFL. And obviously I'm none of those things, but you were ready to hand the freaking keys over to this kid after 2 games, and you're awfully quiet. And again, now it's only 1 bad game. I'm not saying this is what Jalen Hurts isn't going to be a good quarterback and that this 1 game defines who he is. But those first 2 games didn't define who he is either. And to the point of when you look at the second half numbers, guys, and the fact that this is a shout out to you again, because Chris Jenkins, Mr. Buster Beater for the 2016 National Championship, tweeted at the Eagles and said, "Is this Carson's fault too?" And I read the comments, and the first comment was like, "You're a clown. This offense looks so much better, blah, blah, blah." And he was right. He's like, all I see are empty stats that, and we're still getting our asses kicked. The point is, how do you look at this team and this offense? I get it. 2 weeks ago against Arizona and that bad defense, I get it. They put points up on the board. They moved the ball. But they also got stale for a long period of time. They also got stale in the second half against the Saints. And now, this week, the same defense that Carson was awful against and had 4 turnovers against, and you guys wanted him to be benched then. When they beat the Cowboys, they won that game by double digits. And after a bad Carson Wentz performance, you wanted him to be benched. Jalen Hurts threw 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles, 1 lost. They put up 17 points after scoring 14 in the first quarter, in the first 2 possessions. And you think this offense just looks much, much better? Something just happened to the design of our show. I don't know what is going on. So, Rob, go on for a second while I fix this.
He said season over. It's now put behind us. No, listen, that's my whole thing. How much better was the offense really? I get it. I understand that the first halves looked – well, let's put it this way. First half against the Saints, first half against the Cardinals, first quarter against Dallas. And Dallas is the worst defense in the league. And I'm not putting this on Jalen Hurts.
No.
Not on Jalen Hurts. The offensive line was bad, but the first drive where you literally torched them down the field was 9 runs. Then the second drive's the 81-yard pass. Then you come out and you run the ball into the line 3 times, up 14-3.
Yeah. I said that. So after the kid dropping an 81-yard dart, because that was a great throw, they moved the pocket, they got Deshaun open. He throws that dart. The very next possession, you don't allow him to throw the ball.
Yeah. And not only that, it wasn't like third down was 3rd and 1, it was 3rd and 4. It was 3rd and 4. So you got to explain to me why Mr. Throw all the time now is going to run the ball on 3rd and 4. And I tell you why. He got conservative. He said, I got a lead. Let's not – it's 14-3. We're okay. Our defense will do their thing. And he got conservative. And then once they started the comeback and Doug needed to make an adjustment, he had no idea what to do.
He didn't know what to do late in the game. Mr. Ballsy, Mr. Aggressive, Mr. I go for it on 4th down. The numbers tell me to do this. I go for it, 2-point conversions. What was the first 4th down he didn't go for? The 4th and 9. It was manageable in Dallas territory. He punted.
Then he goes for it, and then he goes for it on 4th and 15 with 10.5 minutes ago.
He doesn't know he didn't know what he was doing yesterday when Washington is losing, and you literally have a chance to win and get in next week against now a 3rd string or practice squad quarterback for Washington. They probably win that game on Sunday next week. And that's the performance you put up against Dallas Cowboys defense. 17 points. I don't want to hear that the offense looks better under Jalen Hurts. The 300 yards, the 400 yards, yeah, his numbers are better because Gint said it. It's not Carson's fault that he's not as mobile as Jalen Hurts. The offensive line is still as poor. The play calling still as poor. The wide receiver separation is still as poor. The difference when he was having success is that Jalen Hurts is much more mobile than Carson Wentz, and he was able to get outside of that poor offensive line. Then it turns into backyard football. Then wide receivers can manage to get open, and that's where some of those big plays were coming down the field. But to the fan that just thinks they're right because the offense is putting points on the board early, I'm worn out, man. We have Mr. Crockpot, Dibes, our leader at TPL. Dibes, how are we feeling?
I'm actually kind of the opposite of you guys. I'm feeling good, guys. There's no freaking way Jeffrey Lurie can turn around and ignore the mess that is the Philadelphia Eagles. That is a positive, guys. That actually
I'm with you
beautifully for those that need Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman gone. I got this crazy stat. Since Miles Sanders took over as the number 1 running back week 11 last year, he's received 20 carries in just 2 of 19 games. In those 2 games, he's only received 20 carries exactly, and he's tied for 2nd among NFL running backs in yards per carry, and he's never gotten 21 carries in a game. You have 2 coaches that have no idea what to do with what's on the roster. You have Howie Roseman, who has no idea how to identify talent. When the season ends next week, who is the first to go? And when does that purge happen? Have a good show, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dibes. Yeah, so we were gonna segue into this. Go ahead, Rob.
Well, I got to tell you, because I'm not going to stick around the whole show with you guys. So I just want to say this part. I don't think Howie Roseman's going anywhere.
Me neither. And
I hate it. I'm not saying that's what I think should happen. I'm saying that's what I think is going to happen. To be honest with you, the only guy that I'm not even worried about the coordinators at this point because, to me, the decision is Doug. And look, are there arguments that people can make to validate Doug sticking around for another year? There's arguments. They're tiny, but there's arguments.
The argument is that he won this city the first championship.
Well, and I'd go as far as to say this. There's arguments that if you bring in a true offensive coordinator, maybe he's better. This season was so wacky. Maybe this team just couldn't get – there's going to be all this shit all around the league. You're going to hear this kind of stuff, right? But my problem is this. Doug does not seem like a guy who wants to change. And I think Doug doesn't necessarily like his situation here. So – I don't know if it's going to be a firing. If I had to guess, I believe it's going to be a mutual parting of ways between. So no one burns any bridges, right? Like Doug's not going to rip this franchise. The franchise isn't going to rip Doug. It's going to say they've mutually agreed to part ways, whatever it might be. If anything happens, that's the only thing I see happening. Look, I don't think Howie should be here. But if Howie's going to be here, then they better do everything in their damn power to make sure John Dorsey stays and John Dorsey drafts. People could say, whenever John Dorsey left the franchise, they were in ruins. Yeah, but he won Super Bowls first. and he put together pretty damn good rosters. And he found guys like Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce in Kansas City. So the guy can put together a roster, but it's a shame because really what they need, and if Jeffrey Lurie truly cared about the team and the fans more than his own say in the team and the fans, this would be a clean wipe down.
Well, Rob, let me throw this at you because one of the guests you had on the Madness podcast, Tyron Johnson, on the Mike Missinelli show earlier, it was cracking me up. So if you're of the mindset of you should get rid of Carson Wentz, not you, but like people out there. So Howie Roseman has constructed a roster that I believe is the second oldest in the National Football League and is over $60 million over the cap. And if you wanted to move on from Carson Wentz, I think he said Deshaun Jackson or Zach Ertz, whatever one, and Alshon Jeffrey next year. That is over $50 million of your cap next year for players that would not be here. And the kicker would be an $8 million cap hit or so if you wanted to move on from him because of the contract Howie constructed for Jake Elliott.
Yeah.
Think about that, guys. So I agree. To answer Dive's question, I feel like you're going to be on the same ship. I agree with Rob. Howie is the guy to go for me. However, he and Jeffrey, as you pointed out, Rob, are bathroom buddies. So they will not be. I don't think Howie's going anywhere. I would love to see John Dorsey stay with him and take over drafting responsibility, but Doug's probably going to be the guy to go. And the thing to Dive's point is, and I don't know if either of it happens, but the bottom line is after yesterday's performance, they can't scapegoat Carson Wentz any longer.
No, and I think what's going to happen is Doug and the coaching staff are going to be the scapegoats. And I mean that in the sense that, yeah, they have – look, I'm okay with them going, but very similar to the Phillies a couple years ago. You could get rid of Gabe Kapler, but if Matt Klentak's running your front office, nothing changes. And that's what – I think that's the problem that's going to happen unless behind the scenes, because maybe it's Jeffrey knows how he can't do it, but he doesn't want to put that out there publicly. Maybe John Dorsey's doing more work behind the scenes. A la years ago, there was a guy by the name of Tom Modrak in their front office who was kind of that guy. Okay, so Tom Modrak was there with Banner and all them, but he was doing a lot of the heavy lifting behind closed doors, and that didn't come out till years and years later because Jeffrey and Joe were so tight.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if that's what he's thinking, but this organization is too much about the past. They think everything could just work again. Jake Elliott got that contract because of how good he was in 2017. And that's just what they do. And, I'm going to be on 8:30 later on, kind of breaking this down a little bit more. But I wanted to hop on with you guys just because I wanted to get
it out.
Rant out because I know Dives wants to keep it moving later. Yeah. I figured let me come on here and spend 20 minutes and rant with you guys. Yeah. But you guys enjoy the rest of the show, man, and do a great. You guys, I love it. I love it.
Thanks for coming on, Rob.
All right, guys.
Later.
See ya.
The voice of the people, everybody. You can catch us on Party on Broad tonight at 8:30 discussing the Eagles and Cowboys game and what moves need to be made moving forward. Jameson Taylor here says, sup, guys. Gint, you have a fan. Do you know Jameson?
I don't believe so, but I don't know.
He says, sup,
I don't know if that's an alias name or –
Snap says from the Faithful Fanatics, one of our coaches, Doug's got to go. Hallie got to go. Plain and simple. Yeah, of course. I wish, but that's not going to happen.
So to answer, we didn't really get to Dive's question in a sense. Who do we think the first domino is going to fall?
If there's a domino to fall, it's Doug Peterson.
Or is it? I mean, Rob said he thinks the coordinators are gone regardless. So do you think there's a chance that it's just Jim Schwartz and not Doug?
Oh, that's a great.
It can't be the other way around. If Doug goes, Jim's going too. There's no way.
Here's the end goal, right? The end goal is obviously you're going to get a draft pick anywhere from 3 to 7, I believe. So we don't screw that up in April?
There's no way to mess it up. There's one guy.
I mean, if they take Micah Parsons, if it's Jamar Chase, it's whatever.
They're not going to draft a linebacker if Howie has.
But as some Twitter geniuses pointed out to me yesterday, if there's a guy there, the Eagles should take a quarterback because Carson Wentz ain't it, and now it looks like Jalen Hurts ain't it. So let's take another quarterback. And if the Eagles draft another quarterback with that first pick,
we're in Buffalo.
I'm out. I promise you. I'm no longer a fan.
We're in Buffalo.
I'm done. I can't watch another year of the same shit today. Jeffrey Lurie cannot sit here any longer and just be okay with what's going on. Be okay with the defensive coordinator that I know some people like, a lot of people hate, and I'm somewhere not in the middle. I dislike him more than I like him. But I think he's like the third issue on this team. But Rob's right. There's a lot more of the games versus the Cowboys, a la the game versus the Steelers, a la the game versus the Ravens earlier in the year, where the offense was more than good enough and put up more than enough points, and the defense didn't show up. The Rams, the offense was bad against the Rams, but the defense was awful too. So Jim is an issue, but Howie can no longer look at this and just be accepting of what's out there.
I agree.
You pointed out earlier, and it's what I've been preaching. Carson's hero ball masked this shitty roster last season. Yeah. He was unable to do it this season. Jalen Hurts is unable to do it right now, even though he's putting it in against Arizona. He put up a Herculean effort. Okay, it's just not enough. You can't let 4-10-1. So you're either finishing 5-10-1 or 4-11-1. If that's good enough 3 seasons after a Super Bowl, you got some explaining to do with the fan base.
And a lot of things else. Rob had a really good point about maybe both of these sides of pro Carson Wentz and anti Carson Wentz can finally come together. And I think that would be a huge step in the direction of changes happening. Because when you're sitting there on two opposite sides of the spectrum in a fan base, the scapegoat was being punished by the front office and a side of the fan base, so it's easy to blame one person. So now if you somehow get that to come together and you're all directing your attention to one thing, or there should be two things.
That puts enough pressure on Jeffrey to say, I need to put asses in the seats after this COVID year next year. I'm not going to do that with the same old, the same old I'm putting out there recently. So moves definitely need to be made. And I want to say to Dive's point when he came on and I was like, I'm worn out. I'm just worn out over this entire season. I'm fine. Honestly, I know Washington lost and we could have had a playing game next Sunday night. I'm fine. I tried it. Jalen Hurts came in and gave this team a spark, and it was much needed. And it was the move to make because Carson Wentz was cooked mentally and he was done this season. Okay. That's the bottom line. And Jalen Hurts provided that spark. However, that spark is now dwindled out. And stop laughing. I saw Chase comment. I didn't.
He knows nothing about what he's talking about. He probably Google searched that and typed it.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
He isn't. That's why I know it had to be
wrong. Search. But I have talked football with Chase at the bar many times, and I agree with you. Chase has yet to get his football card. But yeah, dude, I'm fine. And this was more so a rant and a point to everyone out there that was ready to, Carson Wentz sucks after one season. Jalen Hurts, this is the best part. Jalen Hurts is already better than Carson Wentz.
That was
thrown out there on this podcast, on Twitter. He's already better. Carson Wentz turns the ball over too much. Jalen Hurts has 9 fumbles and 3 interceptions. He started in 3.5 games and was a 2-play package guy early in the season. 9 fumbles, not all lost, but 9. He's put the ball on the ground 9 times and has thrown 3 interceptions. Is that taking care of the football? No. And that's a rookie thing. I'm not. This is my point. It sounds like a jab at him. I'm not saying this is like he sucks. I'm mad at him. My point is I'm mad at everyone who expected this kid to be the answer and think he's the answer because he beat Taysom Hill and the Saints. Guys, the offense still sucks. Doug can't call a game. The wide receivers can't get any separation. I said week 1 against the Saints, Greg Ward's getting open. Jalen Reagor's getting open. Oh, look. It was Carson. The wide receivers actually get separation. It was Carson. Oh, he didn't get sacked. The offensive line wasn't the issue. It was Carson. Oh, look at the plays calls. They're executing with Doug. Oh, it was Carson. Really? Because as I stated earlier, Deshaun Jackson led the team in receiving yards last night, and it was on one catch, the 81-yard touchdown. One catch.
That was like seeing ghosts of the past. I couldn't believe that.
It was awesome. Don't get me wrong.
Excited to
But
see.
the bottom line is like, and this is how he's a part of Howie's roster, and it was a great moment. It was a great like nostalgia moment, right? As an Eagles fan, did we see Deshaun Jackson the rest of the game? And then
No.
Doug came out post game and said that he was sore. He got sore throughout as the game went on. Well, he's not like, okay, yeah, the speed's definitely still there. We saw that, but he's done here. Alshon's done here. And if I see one more cornerback bail out Alshon Jeffrey by mauling him down the field, Alshon Jeffrey didn't have 2 inches of separation on that PI last night. And the corner didn't even turn around for the ball and was all over him and tackled him to the ground. So he got a PI call. That's another thing. Like no offense, Jalen, but that's like the third or fourth time in these 3.5 games that he's gone deep down the sideline to Alshon Jeffrey. Dude, what are you doing? What are you doing looking for a 17 now?
Yeah. I'm just so glad that, like Rob said, the final shoe has fell. There's no playoffs happening. I hope we lose by 6 touchdowns next week.
Kevin, can you clarify? He says if we lose next week and the Bengals and Falcons win, we get the 3rd pick. Do you want that? Kevin, are you asking me if I want the 3rd pick? We're eliminated from the playoffs.
Would I rather the 3rd pick or the 7th pick? Yeah.
I'll take – I'm fine with being 3 through 7. The issue is getting – right, so if we get 3 –
they won't pick at 3.
Can you realistically – you can't take Jamar Chase at 3. No,
no, I don't think they'd pick
Micah Parsons at 3, so they'd have to move back a couple spots.
Which is okay.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, that won't be a Howie Roseman move. Howie Roseman will draft another quarterback. But let's move on. If you guys want to call into the show, use the link in the top of the comment section, or if you're watching on YouTube, it's in there. You don't have to show your face. Just call in, chat with us for a little bit, give your stance on things, or comment along with us. Again, let's move on to the Sixers because, as I said earlier, it was a dreadful day, or night, I should say, as a Philadelphia sports fan, because after the Eagles officially get eliminated and we had to watch the Dallas Cowboys stomp them.
I didn't even see Ty's comment that says they're going to draft a defensive lineman.
I didn't see that either. That's great. The Sixers get absolutely dominated by the Cleveland Cavaliers, 118-94. Joel Embiid did not play last night because of what was it? Lower back tightness,
I believe.
But it's load management, but we all know that. But he was scratched literally moments before the game, which definitely threw off their plan. Yeah. They did not bring their best effort last night.
No.
So take it away again.
Yeah, I mean, the starting unit with Dwight Howard looked dysfunctional is, I guess, a word. It just did not look very good. They didn't – besides Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris kind of looked like he figured out a game for himself. If he probably would have played a full game, he could have had over 20. But the bench wasn't even that good. Sixers turned it over 21 times. They lost the paint battle by 30 points, 68-38. Andre Drummond looked like Hakeem Olajuwon. But last night was just one of those games where when things started to go wrong, everything went wrong.
Yeah.
Larry Nance turned into
JaVale McGee
hits a 3. So it's just one of those games where things just went wrong. And at one point they would cut it. You cut it to 16, cut it to 14. You think, all right, here we go. Maybe the wheels will start turning. And it was a turnover, a dunk, turn it over again, a dunk. So everything I wrote down that it literally looked like they had no clue that Joel Embiid wasn't going to play, and they had not prepped for it whatsoever at all. I wrote Furkan Korkmaz looks unplayable, and I don't know if it's his fault as much because I feel like he's getting in a position where he has to make a lot of decisions that he should not have to do, and that other guys are way more capable of him than doing, if that even made sense. I think you get what I'm saying, though. But he shot.
Well, we talked about it, like Doc had drawing up him handling the ball and coming around a screen and being used in that. Like, that's not – if Furkan's on the floor, it's for spacing, and that is it.
Yeah, and he's being used in this other role where he's coming off of ball screens and he's trying to make plays. And he looks uncomfortable, to say the least. I shouldn't say it because Furkan with the ball in his hand, he looks beyond comfortable, but he's just doesn't look – he should be there for catch and shoot no more than 2 dribbles at a time.
Well, going off of your Furkan point, Justin Persichetti here from TPL says Furkan out tomorrow, injury. Look, I don't want to see him hurt. I don't want to see anybody hurt. But but he can stay there for the rest of the
I
season.
wonder who.
Because
To
to your point, Gint, 2 nights ago, against the Knicks, I believe Furkan was an outstanding 1 of 7 and 1 for 5 from 3. And last night, he was 1 for 8 from the field and 0 for 5 from 3. And to your unplayable point, that is just blasphemy to me, again. Blasphemous. I was told a couple weeks ago when I said he's unplayable if he's not hitting shots. Oh, look at that. He's unplayable if he's not hitting shots. It's like, who would have thought?
Not only is he not hitting shots, did you see it might have been Shake. Someone came off a ball screen and Furkan just like ran into him at one point.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is going on? The team, Tony Bradley looked about he couldn't make a 2-foot drop hook if I begged him.
Tony Bradley was 0 for 5 from the field before dunk. What's the name? Ben just wasn't. Look, I love Ben Simmons, but he wasn't good enough with Joel not on the floor last night offensively.
Yeah.
Danny Green attempted 1 3-pointer. He was 0 for 1 with 4 points in 17 minutes. Shake Milton was not good enough. He was 2 for 6 points. Mike Scott chalked up about 19 threes, which is definitely not the offense. And I don't want to see another Mike Scott the 5 experiment ever again. There was at one point last night in the rotation on the floor was Mike Scott, Furkan Korkmaz, and Shake Milton. And I have high expectations for Shake Milton this season, but I felt like, oh my God, I'm watching the Sixers of last year again.
Yeah.
And it's just not the rotation I wanted to see. But how they looked last night, once they got down, because at one point, the first quarter, they were fine. It was the second quarter. And they got down and they just didn't look like they had the will or energy in that back-to-back. They looked like the team that played a double overtime game the night before, not the Cleveland Cavaliers. To your point, I think the Cavs were outstanding last night. I think the Cavs played much better than we expected them to. But the Sixers definitely played a role in it. Their transition defense was horrible. Their offense was horrible. They turned the ball over way too much. They were so sloppy transition or half-court offense. It didn't matter. Ben Simmons led with 6 turnovers. I think he was a minus 23. And to top it all off, I said in the Daily Dose pregame show, the one thing the Sixers need to do, because the Cleveland Cavaliers are not a good team, albeit they're 3-0 right now, but they're not a good team. You're the more talented team. Don't give the lesser talented team second chance opportunities and more opportunities to score. What did the 76ers do?
Just that.
And I said control the glass. Don't let Andre Drummond to get second chance opportunities. Don't let Andre Drummond control the glass. They literally did the complete opposite of what I said. They let Andre Drummond and company control the glass and get second chance after second chance, and it killed them. It absolutely killed them last night. I think the play to describe it all was when Dwight Howard and was it Toby? They were going for a rebound, and no one was around them, just them two, and it goes out of bounds. Stays with Cavs. Pretty sure the Cavs inbound to hit a 3. Like that was just the energy in the building last night against the Cavaliers.
It was like I said, just once one thing goes wrong, everything goes wrong. And not that you need to prepare to play without your probable best player, but he's going to miss games, and they're going to have to figure out a way to get some wins without him. Not that I'm really worried, because like I said, I don't know if the players knew that he wasn't playing, but it just looks so dysfunctional to the point where I know they were coming off a back-to-back, so there wouldn't even be a practice, obviously.
Yeah.
Why he didn't play, we would presume. But they just look like they have never even seen a lineup in the starters without Embiid, which, again, you're not ever going to prepare for your best player not to play because you prepare to have your best lineup possible at all times. So,
no, and
I'm not jumping the gun here. I'm not jumping to, James Harden is needed now. And I'm not jumping to no, I'm sorry, I'm not.
Damn. Neither am I. However, and the one other thing I want to point out is, look, I'm ripping them right now, and they were awful last night. Did I expect to lose to the Cavaliers by over 20 points? No, not a million years. Joel Embiid or no Joel Embiid, that should have never happened. Then Dwight Howard gets in foul trouble as the starting center. He gets 3 fouls in the first half. Cannot happen when you know that Tony Bradley or Vincent Poirier are coming in after you. So that was a mess. But the one thing I'll say is, like you brought it up, the Harden now we need James Harden. He would have given you 45 and 15 and blah blah. Yeah, he would have. However, these nights happen. I don't know why they happen. But the Brooklyn Nets lost to the Charlotte Hornets last night, and the Milwaukee Bucks got absolutely ran out of the gym by the New York Knicks, just like we got ran out of the gym by the Cleveland Cavaliers last night.
Yeah, it was, and the Clippers lost by 200 points. So,
well, Nadir says everyone is shooting bricks. It's unbelievable. There's something wrong with Doc's system. Can't put my finger on it. Nadir, I want to say one thing that's flawed with your comment, buddy. If people are shooting bricks, that has nothing to do with the system. Exactly. Hidden open shot, hidden open three. Especially they don't look any better. They added Danny Green. They added Seth Curry. Tobias Harris was 4 for 6 last night. Your boy Furkan did more than his part in shooting last night. And I'm not panicking. I'm expecting the 3-point shooting to develop as the season goes on with chemistry and floor spacing. And I expect Danny Green to play a role in that. And I expect Seth to be much better from 3. But just hit an open shot that has nothing to do with the system. Nothing. Yeah. And to your point about Doc's system, here's my issue, right? And again, we're complaining. I get it. But like, I'm looking at it realistically. I'm not panicked or worried whatsoever. No one says a word when they win. Oh, yeah. They lose one game in which Joel Embiid did not play at the last minute. And we need James Harden. His system is flawed. Ben needs to be gone. He doesn't do enough offensively. Come on, guys. Come on.
The only thing that's said when we win is, well, Ben didn't shoot a 3. There's no rhythm body language. Ben. I mean, it's not even something to get into.
Last night, sure.
Like I said, to get into it 26 times this season if we're going to lose.
The last night was literally felt like a 2019 road game under Brett Brown. Don't get me wrong. The body language, the energy, he's right in that sense. But where you're wrong, Nadir, is you can't say that for the season. You just can't. I mean, they beat the Knicks by 20 points 2 nights ago in a back-to-back, and then they come out with no Joel Embiid. And they look bad. Ty says, welcome to Philly, Dylan. Ty, been here more than long enough, and that's what I've spent this show doing, is calling out the fan base that just irritates the hell out of me. And you know what the funny part is, Gint? They're probably the same people. The same people that are bugging about the Sixers now after one bad loss to the Cleveland Cavaliers are the same people that wanted to anoint Jalen Hurts the franchise guy after 2 games and hate Carson Wentz. They're the same people that think we should have kept Nick Foles. They're the same people that want to trade Ben Simmons. It's full-time job being a Philadelphia sports fan. It really is.
Yeah, I was really hoping last night we would have saw a 20-point win for the Sixers to mask the Eagles getting embarrassed, but that just didn't happen. And yeah, Nadir, that's just not true. I mean, that's just a really different situation with what Paul George said. He said that Doc ran pin downs for him. Well, we have Seth Curry, Danny Green, and Tobias Harris. What action would you like to run for them if you're not running them off a pin down? So
again, my issue and with these comments are it's one loss. Did you not, Nadir, the team that you were ready to crown NBA champions yesterday, the Brooklyn Nets, that same team with Kevin Durant and Kyrie, and they both played and dropped good numbers. They lost to the Charlotte Hornets.
The LaMelo Ball.
Giannis, league MVP, they got blown out by the New York Knicks, the team that the Sixers beat by 22 nights ago. Okay? It happens. Everyone needs to stop panicking after one bad loss. Does it suck in the moment? Sure, especially after having to watch the Eagles lose like that to the Cowboys. But the next day, you have to sit back and be like, okay, it's one loss. The third game of the season with this new roster, this new system, this new coaching staff, no Joel Embiid, it's going to happen. Relax. Pump the brakes.
Yeah, I agree. This is going to be a long season if after every loss these things are going to happen.
It's going to happen.
We're probably going to lose about 26 games this season. So this is going to be, hopefully this isn't a reoccurring thing, but.
No, and again, one thing I wanted to ask you before we wrap up in a few minutes is, do you agree with him not playing last night? Did that irk you a little bit or no?
I know me and you, I think, have similar stance on this, that and I know all the old NBA players say it too, that you just want guys to play that are players, and you want I can't stand Chase, but it's a back-to-back, I understand, and
No, hold on, because he's actually like he's getting on my nerves so badly. Nadir, the Milwaukee Bucks got blown out last night, brother. It happens. I get it. Yeah, the Nets lost a close game. Did they lose? An L's an L, right? But the Bucks got blown out. Are they not a good team now? Are the Bucks not a good team now? Answer that question. Chase says what they need is Al Horford back. Chase, go to work or something.
Yeah, but to go back to your question on if it irritates me, I feel selfish saying yes, but like if you look at the schedule and you see a back-to-back and you see Cleveland as the second half of that back-to-back, in which they had a back-to-back the night prior, that doesn't even count the fact they went to double overtime. That's also pull up Ty's comment.
Yeah, Ty says
that's what really that was what irks me as well. If like these guys, if the players didn't find out until, which I'm assuming obviously they found out before we did. Don't get me wrong with that, but this should have been decided the night after the Knicks game. And said, all right, you're not playing tomorrow. Let's start to prep for Cleveland without Joel Embiid, which with the play last night, it just did not look like that. So I'm not going to say it irks me because I would rather him be healthy. And if that means him not playing back-to-backs, I understand. But I don't see why he can't ever play in a back-to-back.
Me too, but just call it what it is.
Yeah.
It's
right.
load management.
That's
call
what
it is. Don't tell me it's lower back soreness or tightness or whatever.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what they called Kyrie and Kevin Durant today. Pretty sure they called it rest.
Yeah.
So they did.
And Russell Westbrook the other night was rest too for the Wizards. April says, I want to see more of 22. April, I would love that. But he doesn't look right.
He's gonna play now.
Oh, yeah. With Ferk out, of course.
Yeah. I assume, unless they're gonna jump right to Terrence Ferguson.
And this is like a mean thing to say because it is due to an injury. And again, I don't want to see Furkan Korkmaz hurt. But this would like be the perfect timing for Matisse to come in and start shooting
40% from three. Yeah.
Yeah, just be the perfect 3-and-D guy. And then when Ferk's healthy, he doesn't need his rollback on this team.
Yeah. I mean that would be ideal because I'm just waiting for if it's ever gonna happen, which I don't think I'm starting to think it's never going to happen, but Matisse just somehow becomes a 40% three-point shooter and turns into what Mikal Bridges is in Phoenix, who we gave away for Zaire Smith, by the way. Mikal Bridges had 22 points last night, 7 rebounds, 5 made threes.
We have Tony Bradley now, though, because
he looked good last night.
I got to bring that up to Robert later because that's his.
Yeah, please do, because I'll be watching. So,
and then what was the last thing I wanted to touch on? He needs to start. That's it. That's it. He needs to give Tyrese more run.
You know how you do that?
Start shake.
That run that
you don't like shake off the ball with Maxey?
No, but I think Dives made a great point. I think if you were really going to bring Shake off the bench continuously, and I think he would be on the ball a lot more. I think they're prepping him to be put into the starting lineup next to Ben, is what I think is coming. Thank you, Ty. Ty had a great show today, too. Pull the Pin podcast. It was on 3:30 today, live podcast. They do it at his buddy's golf store. I'm not even a huge golf guy, but it's a great show to watch. I watched it for a little bit. Sorry, I had to throw that plug in there for him.
Great plug. Josh, sorry, Josh. He's on his girl's laptop. He said, I think the games Joe don't play, I think Ben should take the 3. Look, would we all like to see Ben pull up from 3 or shoot a corner 3? Yeah. I would just, when the games Joe doesn't play, Ben just needs to be more aggressive offensively. He's the guy when Joe's not on the floor. The offense, like, he just needs to be more aggressive. Like, I'm fine when Joe plays and he's giving you 30 and other guys and Ben's dropping 15, 16, 10 and 9 or whatever. I get it. I love it. But that is
Nadir, please. Nadir, I'm begging you, Nadir. Please. Nadir. If Tyrese Maxey never shoots a 3-pointer in his life, he was still probably a top 12 talent in this draft class.
if Tyrese Maxey never shoots a 3 in his life, he is 80,000 times the player that Furkan Korkmaz would ever be. Okay.
Yeah.
Here, guys, just for this. Maxey can't shoot. That's why he was the 21st pick. Tyrese Maxey has already shown flashes in 3 short games. I love the kid. He should not have fallen to 21. He can shoot from the mid range. His numbers freshman year at Kentucky from beyond the arc were not good. But he hasn't shot the 3 well so far. He put up we'll call it a pass. We'll call it a pass on the one that he overshot the rim and airballed. And
but here's the thing, and Rob mentioned it last night during the live stream. You'd love to see it though. He didn't hesitate. He stepped right into it. He shot a 3. It didn't go in. I understand, and it airballed. Sad, but that's all you can ask out of the kid. He's what, 20 years old? Like, this kid's gonna play a lot of basketball. So we'll see.
Yeah, man. So for just to wrap up here, my message to all my fellow Philadelphia sports fans is pump the brakes when you get excited or when you're mad and upset. Okay. I get it. Philadelphia sports is very frustrating. I've lived it my entire life, but Jalen Hurts was the guy. Not so sure. And it's not his fault, but that was a message to all of you guys. And now the Sixers lose 1 game and the city's going to burn down.
And James Harden's going to be a Sixer.
So pump the damn brakes and just enjoy this Sixer season. It's going to be a fun one. There's going to be, growing pains throughout the course of the season. There just is. That's the bottom line. But I still think this team is good enough to compete right now as constructed. I do. Joel Embiid did not play last night. Think Joel Embiid's not going to be on the floor for a playoff game again?
Yeah, which we won't see the Cleveland Cavaliers in.
Yeah, I would love to against Andre Drummond, but anyway.
That's you saw my tweet. That made me mad, man.
So for myself, for Gint, check out Party on Broad later tonight with myself, Rob, the voice of the people, and Dibes as we break down the Eagles' ending of the season against the Cowboys, the quarterback issues, just everything, who's to blame. Check out the Faithful Fanatics podcast on Wednesday. Myself, Gint, and 2 of our friends will be having Rob Motti on the show to talk all things Eagles and Carson Wentz and Sixers. And the Daily Dose will be back tomorrow at 5. Gint, are you available tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm available until further notice. Unless high school basketball happens, I'm available until further notice.
There you have it. I have a reliable co-host for the time being for the Daily Dose show. So for myself, for Gint, this is the Daily Dose with Dylan Davis. Have a nice night, everybody.